video, I'm going to be talking about how to cover up a mistake. So you can kind of see this here, right? So the outfit she is wearing in this painting is an Alexander McQueen couture, where he's got a fur jacket with springbok horns on the shoulder pads. And springbok horns, when you're looking forward, do this curvy thing like this, right? So when you're wearing the jacket looking forward, it does this. So I was having a heck of a time figuring out, when you're doing this, what does that look like? And I knew it was wrong when I drew it in, but I just couldn't figure it out. And so I was having a conversation with my mother, who is the model for this, Demeter. And my mother was like, have you tried looking at what is like to see if you can find an image of a springbok from the side? And I was like, sometimes I don't know if I don't get enough sleep. Anyway, so so I did, and we did look it up, and we found an image of a springbok from the side. And lo and behold, that's the correct reference for what I needed. Because I kept trying to find the jacket from the side, not the actual springbok from the side. Anyway, sometimes this is why having other artists critique your work, or just even showing your work in progress to people, is very helpful, because every once in a while, a lot of times you don't see everything. And so what we're gonna do with this is I'm going to paint in the correct springbok horn over top of this, and then we're going to kind of fill everything else in like nothing ever happened. And so this is a great example of if at some point along the process while you're painting you realize you've done something incorrectly, you can always go back at any point in the process and fix it. And you always should. You should never just be like, that's fine. Like, no one will know. Yes, people will know. And most importantly, and do you really want to have a painting that you've spent all this time with and be like, oh, that part always bugs me? I don't. Let's just say this, where we're at in this painting as far as the underpainting goes, is I have done the first layer of white, and then have done the yellow glaze, which you can see. And then, as you can see, I've started putting in that second layer of white. So this is, if you're going to catch a mistake, this is the perfect place. And so all I've done here, which I decided doesn't need to be filmed, is used the same Venetian red that I did for the red ground, and just in oil, because now we're in oil land here, and used an oil Venetian red to just cover that up. And so you'll see as we go through this, I'm going to fill back in the clouds, and it's going to look exactly like that's what I meant to do the whole time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I think it'll be really useful. And thanks for watching. So what I'm starting to do here is redraw the horn. So you can clearly see where I have painted over the old one. And now I'm just going in with pen. I've got my reference right to the side there, and I am just drawing in the new horn. And, I'm just using the pen like I would for the underpainting, because I'm just going to cover it over with the casein or egg tempera, and it'll be fine. So it's just easier to see at this point, and I can it's still mostly the acrylic underneath, a little bit of the paint, but the pen goes over it just fine. So here I'm doing the casein, just kind of putting in that first layer, same as I would do anything else. And I've got to redraw these clouds, And, you know, just using the technique that I do. I have a whole video on it of a wet brush, dry brush. So there's my dry brush. Especially these clouds get a lot of fuzzing. And so kind of paint in with the wet brush and fuzz with the dry brush. And here I am just filling in these blanks. So, you know, it's really like you got to think about this layer as if you were doing the first layer of the white. So, you know, because you kind of are, right? Like when you're going back and kind of fixing something like this, you start from the beginning in some level. And you have to treat it like it's that first layer of white over the red. No matter where you are in the process of your actual painting, when you go back, you have to rebuild that layer up, or it's really going to look very different. So you have to catch up this kind of new section of the painting to where the rest of it is, and then it will seamlessly blend in. So here you can kind of see where I've done the clouds. I filled those back in. Now I'm going back and, you know, filling in that horn just in a bit more detail, getting the kind of major highlights. I want to make sure I'm doing, you know, like as good of a job as I can here, again, because you know, I want it to seamlessly fit in to the rest of the piece. And you can still very clearly see that black outline, right? But as you see, as this video goes on, it will get less and less. And because the horn is pretty dark, painted pretty dark, I'm not going to worry about it. So what I did here, just to accentuate it a bit, is use that use the technique that I do sometimes is using some dark brown to get those shadows in this layer of the underpainting. You can use this dark brown layer at any stage. You can do it either when you're first on the red layer, yellow layer, or even blue layer right before you do color. You get different colors each time you do that. So, you know, it really just depends on kind of like what your outcome is that you want for that shadow, which stage you'll add it in. So I decided to do it because, again, the horn is a very dark brown color. And I thought, you know, I'm just kind of helping it along by doing this. And it's going to help. You know, as I said, it's going to help that pen kind of blend in a lot more. It needs more help potentially because it's just kind of a little thicker than a lot of the other spaces on the painting. So I'm just adding in some shadow, really kind of trying to give this horn some volume. And so this I'm using oil. So I'm using a sepia. I really love like a really opaque sepia for this process. Every once in a while I use a Van Dyke brown. Van Dyke brown is a much warmer brown. I love that brown. I love that brown for glazing. But for underpaintings, sepia, a really opaque sepia is my favorite color. There's just something about it that really lends itself to being, how do I say this? This is weird, glazed upon, because it's kind of this like, I don't know, it's such a weird color on some level. It's like really a gray brown, but they're so, you know, it's sometimes it can get green, sometimes it can get, you know, blue. It depends on what you glaze over. It's just a really wonderful color. It can go really, really black. You know, so I really prefer it for the underpainting. So give sepia a try when you're using it this way. Make sure it's an extra opaque sepia, not one of the transparent ones. All right, so what I've done here is I went and put some casing over the original horn drawing because that pen was sticking through. Casing covers a pen perfectly. And I have found that it's kind of a really good, cover up for anything that you might need to cover up. And so I just to make sure that I'm not, having a problem with my underpainting with that pen sticking through, I just put some casing over top of it, and now I'm going back and repainting the background color over top of it. The background is going to be, some part of it is going to be like a sunrise ombre colors, and other parts are going to be like midnight, purple black. So, I want to utilize the beautiful grays, optical grays that I'm going to get from the Mische, or just the layers of glazing color. And so I want to make sure that I can kind of leave that background as glazy as humanly possible. And so now I am putting on the yellow glaze. And so I'm getting there. I'm getting close to where they've all been caught up. So I'm just local glazing. I'm also obviously going to glaze the background, but I'm just local glazing this part to, get that color on there. Again, you're really just thinking like you're starting from scratch, just with this one part and catching it up to the rest. And so you just want to make sure that as you're working, you're just really mindful of that process and mindful that, you're bringing it back around, building back up the layers. And you could be, if you happen to be almost at the end of the piece, you've got local color glazes on there already, and you have to, you decide, oh my God, I've got to add this part in. You do the same thing. Like, you don't suddenly just direct paint. I mean, you could direct paint stuff on your Mische Technique, but if you're really working in this process and staying true to the process, I think your most benefit is going to be from kind of just quick doing, the process from the beginning in that place. It'll just look more cohesive. There's definitely a case to be made, and I do this sometimes myself, right? Where some part of the painting is direct painted, another part of the painting is Mische Technique. But I'm doing that intentionally. It's not like, oops, I made a mistake. I'm just going to direct paint that part in and, pretend like that didn't happen, right? Like, I'm intentionally combining those two techniques because they have a very specific look, and the two together are really interesting. But if you're just, you kind of stick something on, or, fix something on the painting in such a way that you're just kind of direct painting it in, it's not going to look the same. So it's really worth the effort, no matter what stage of a painting you're in, to kind of go back and catch it up the right way. So once that yellow glaze has dried, I am now going back and doing the second white layer. So this is now getting caught up to where the rest of the painting is. And so I'm just, same as I would do with the rest of it, just, focusing on getting those highlights built up, getting the volume. This is such a cool object, right? The horn is this really beautiful texture that's both, it has horizontal texture and it has vertical texture. And so the vertical bumps are like so much of what's catching the light. But as you get down to the base of the horn, there's actually quite a bit of like vertical striations in the horn. And so, like getting that with the brush strokes, you can really kind of get a lot of that with just how you paint it in. And so I'm doing the clouds, getting those nice fuzzies in there. And that nice fade down to give it some volume. And I've got my light source here, kind of very, you can kind of see with the shadows on the face there, and on the neck, that this light source is really just coming in from the top hard. And so it's almost, it's almost like a spotlight. And that's kind of nice because, when I'm looking for references for a springbok, they're usually just standing outside under a very bright sun. And so it's kind of handy for not having to rethink too hard about where the light is hitting the horn. And so, when you're looking for images like that or references, it's kind of a nice, just make sure your references are either aligned in their light source, or you can easily make it aligned because it's going to make a huge difference. Okay, so I've caught it up to where it needs to be. And now once that's dry, next step is putting on that blue. So this is my blue glaze. For this one, I just used a tube of Radiant Turquoise by Gamblin. I love this color. I probably use this most often. And there it is. So you can see that there's still bits, and you can see it way more in this picture than you can kind of see it in person. But you can see that it's blended in very nicely. It doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. The actual horn and the clouds are pretty perfect. And there you go. Like, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much for watching. See you next time.